A strange coincidental meeting. Amisha Republic capital city, Ara. Originally, Ara was widely known as a free city. However, matching the transformation of Amisha's name from a kingdom to a republic, the capital relocated from the old one of Chaldea, which had some roads that were difficult to access. Usually when relocating a capital, it takes several years of work, but through the will of King Collard, who has a restrained personality, they didn't build the royal palace. They reused the town hall building for political functions, so the normally impossible short time for relocation became possible. However, now as the king triumphantly returned to the new capital, he originally was from the city, so the citizens were highly conscious of it. He was dumbfounded as the unplanned royal palace, a castle with a red pointed roof like those in fairy tales where kings live, stood before his very eyes. That was secretly built by the sponsors. H.I+P from Amisha's suzerain state, Imperial Crimson Sovereign. Among the countries there were some who called her things like Demon Empress or Demon Emperor, but from her appearance, Princess is the most popular one. Officially it is a grant, as the raw materials, human resources, and expenses were all covered by Imperial Crimson. Collard, who received it, prostrated himself on the ground heartbrokenly, and murmured the revenge backfired. The result, in more than half a year the town changed into the largest, both in town size and population, in Amisha. Although for the citizens, instead thinking something like, should we change the king, should we change the country's name, or should we settle under the jurisdiction of a demon country, the price of tomorrow's grain is a much more important matter. From their perspective there is no dissatisfaction with the present regime. Each person followed their ordinary regular business and said their time normally. More or less, if you're talking about something that's different from before, N.O.Bli social status is now gone, but from the start they didn't have a direct influence on the people. The only case where people were affected was with tax collection. Right now the duty is covered by tax collectors from the government's bureaucrats, so there isn't anything particularly different. On the contrary, the dispersed tax rate along the region was now unified, and therefore for the regions which suffered from N.O.Bli oppression, that was nothing but good news. Still, the visible changes can be seen here and there throughout the town. There were things which were unthinkable before but now can be seen in town, like goblins or orcs negotiating for prices. The suzerain state, Imperial Crimson, demanded recognition of personal rights for adapting demons into human society. However, there were no special privileges for demons as people feared at first. It was widely spread that they were treated as equal to normal citizens, they had tax duties, and were punished for crimes they committed. With that, compared to the society with N.O.Bless, it was much more fair, equal, and peaceful. While sitting on a park bench that faced the main street, Joey was watching the stream of people who were moving into the town. This town is changing a lot, he obscurely thought. From what he could see, the races referred to as demi-humans in the western area, like elves, dwarfs, and the like, were increasing within the population. According to the area they were treated as magical beings. Not only that, goblins from the Great Forest, orcs from the old historic remains, dungeon, and cyclopes from the northern Dragon Mountain range, which previously couldn't be thought of as anything besides monsters to be subjugated, were swaggering around downtown. Not to mention one who was close to him, Collard, who formerly was a guild leader for now became His Majesty, the King. You must be wondering how things turned out like this, right? I also want to know that. Ahahaha, Collard, who came over to transfer the T.I.Tle of guild leader, met with Joey after some time. He somehow talked with vacant eyes. Gald Sensei, who at the guild training school, had trained the H.E.L.L out of Joey, became the new guild leader and also smiled bitterly. By the way, Joey, there are two reasons why I called you here. One of them is this: at the new guild leader's signal, Mia, who was temperate, right now from a receptionist she now officially became the guild leader's secretary, brought a familiar metal plate, the guild emblem, and handed it over to the new guild leader, Gald. I thought this would be a bit faster, but our boss here became His Majesty the King. Well, it's time to congratulate you. You are now promoted to D rank. With this you've finally come out from your H.E.L.L. The new guild leader Gald struck Joey on the chest while he stared in wonder and was ferried the guild emblem. As the pain gradually made him realize the truth, Mia smiled with her whole face and applauded him. Congratulations, Joey-kun. With this you are publicly a full-fledged guild member. He meekly nodded in response to those words. Okay, putting the matter about your ranking aside, there is one more reason. Did you remember your promise? Promise. That moment, the face of an unforgettable beautiful girl freshly resurrected in his mind. Oh, of course. I have said that I will guide her. Hearing Joey's enthusiastic speech, for some reason Collard pinned down the bridge of his GLA.S.SES and breathed a sigh. Well, regarding that, rather than stopping you, Her Majesty had some words about it while we were having another chat. Again, he breathed a grand sigh. She said I am going. I am going. It's a bit boring here anyway, in a time where our country had a mountain of internal discussions and foreign negotiations. I wonder where Her Majesty got the leisure. Joey vaguely nodded. Come to think of it, I heard Hyuki is more important than Collard who became the king. I guess it's surely very grave, Joey pondered carefully. Then in that case, perhaps guiding her around the town would not be easy, continued his thoughts. Shortly after, an envelope was presented before him. The meeting place and the time are written in this envelope. Can you read the characters? Yes. I've taken a lesson about it in training school, so I should be able to get the gist of it. This means, I could meet her. Joey's face instantly s.h.I+ned. Very well. Then, to prevent any uproar from happening as much as possible, please grasp tightly to that person's reins. Since on the paper it's purely an ordinary young lady sightseeing with a guild adventurer escorting and guiding her, even the country is not planning a lot of inference. Being given the warning with a serious expression, Joey nodded with an unsure one. But, is this really okay? Be that as it may, instinctively he thought, wouldn't that be dangerous? So he confirmed it. Again Collard gave a huge sigh. There is no good explanation though. I would rather say when you make unnecessary fuss or trouble, our side will just say we didn't know anything. So please, Joey-kun. Hearing Joey's unreliable answer, all members realized this guy doesn't know what the meaning is. Well, you don't need to think so much, just escort her properly. Gald struck Joey's shoulder hard in order to erase his anxiety. So then, Joey was waiting at the time and place written in that letter, but that conspicuous girl's figure couldn't be seen. Is there some sort of mistake? So he thought then from his back pocket, since he has escort duty. Today he wore his favorite leather armor and hung his sword, so the only usable pocket was his back one. He took out the letter and frowned, looking at the contents. It's not wrong, right? What is she doing? Shortly after he talked to himself, a dearly clear voice was heard. Yo, sorry. Pardon me for being late. He was about to say you're late, but in that moment he thought that he had mistaken someone else as her. He saw her face once again, making sure of it. Then he lightly caught his breath. Hyuki wore a cotton white summer dress and a hat coiled with a light blue ribbon, only a single red rose s.h.I+ned. She floated her smile. Joey was caught unexpectedly, thinking that she will surely come with her usual showy dress. Also, not to mention her fresh and yet defenseless figure made him feel the quickness of his throbbing heart. Why, you, didn't wear the usual dress. As expected, I think that dress is too conspicuous. Also, about the usual you said, actually the first day I wore a line dress and the second day was a princess line dress, so everything was different. By any chance did you not notice it? Joey was at a loss for words, thinking both of them were the same. Well, it's no problem. For that reason I tried to wear a disguise, did it not suit me? So she said. She pinned down her hat with one hand and spun around in a circle in place. Her skirt softly fluttered, the slender white feet etched in Joey's eyes. His fluid U.S.-tiered face became red. No, I think it suits you. Besides, I also didn't know who you were at first. He expresses rapidly what he was thinking. Is that so? Then the disguise is a success. Hyuki delightfully smiled. Although with that appearance of hers, she was causing those surrounding them to notice just by standing silently. As expected, Joey, who had taken notice of their reactions, judged that remaining here any longer would cause an uproar. He stood up from the bench in a hurry and forcibly took Hyuki's small delicate hand. Now then, let's go soon. Is there any place you would like to visit? Well, that I'll leave up to you. Why did you grasp my hand? Moreover, we're holding hands like lovers. The latter part was spoken in a low voice, so Joey seemed to not have heard it. He asked her again, puzzled. Mia-san taught me to do it like this when guiding someone around town. Is this wrong? With the opposite hand, Hyuki pinned down the side of her forehead. She is still, rather, 8 months have said, and yet you are still not on good terms with her. Well, that's not true. We eat together and she makes me boxed lunches when I receive requests and go outside. Mia is really kind. Towards Joey, who declared that while having a clear face without a single cloud, Hyuki made a beyond delicate smile that was mixed with various feelings, then she stared at him again. Was Mia-san too much of a late bloomer? Or is this one too dense? I feel either one could be the cause. I kinda don't understand, but anyway, where would you like to go? I'll leave it to you. Any place that you think would be good. With her careless request, Joey pondered a little and then replied. Then, let's go to my favorite weapon shop. Your thoughtless reactions are as lively as ever, Joey. Well, I have some interest in this world's weapons though. But normally, was this somewhere you would take a girl first? Hyuki thought of this question greatly in the innermost part of her heart. 1 hour later. Wearing a brand new sword on his waist, Joey walked along the street together with Hyuki with a pleasant face. Of course, their hands were still connected. Is it really all right? Buying this sword for me? While touching the sword with his other hand, Joey made sure for an unknown number of times. It's no problem. I thought of it as a substitute tuition for your promotion present. Besides, it's just a normal sword, not a magic one. In the first place, it was exchanged with your previous sword, so, by any means, it doesn't mean I'm paying for it. Hyuki lightly shrugged her shoulders. Responding to her, Joey said, is that so? My bad, although he seems to be happy. But, even the uncle at the weapon store said, young lady, you really have good eyes. The blacksmith who forged this one is still young, but his arms are the best, as I thought you are great. Well, that thing has +1 while having the same price as the other swords, so the endurance is higher. Remember the inscription next time when you buy a replacement sword again. I recommend you to buy from that smith. Joey nodded, but suddenly he felt someone's gaze and wondered. Say, is that beastman one your acquaintance's? Her eyes lured on, looking ahead. She opened her eyes so wide that they wouldn't go any further. That's impossible, because of Hyuki's trembling hand and her S.H.I+ veering voice that he hadn't heard so far. Joey was surprised and stared at that person. It was a young beastman who appeared to be from the wolf tribe, having an age around 20 years old with black hair and blonde highlights flowing in. He continuously grinned. His attire did not particularly stand out, being a linen top and bottom. Speaking of conspicuous things, perhaps it's the leg armor that covered both of his hands and legs. That man, who while seeing Hyuki had a face like a wolf in the front of his certain prey, approached. Yo. Long time no see. Hyuki-tan. A husky voice leaked from Hyuki's mouth hearing that greeting. Animaru-san. You're here too. That man was the guildmaster of Anarchy and Happy Friends, the holder of court rank equal to Hyuki, the beast king without a blade. He didn't reply to that question and deepened his cheerful smile. The clash of fists and swords, most likely there is no one other than that man in her eyes. Without realizing it herself, Hyuki released Joey's hand and unsteadily approached him. Did the others come here too? In the view of Joey, who lost the warmth of her gripped hand, which made his chest slightly hurt, the smile of the wolfish man intensified even more. No, it's wrong. Those are the eyes of a thug or a monster that torments its prey. C.R.A.P. Hyuki, get away from that man. Joey immediately drew his sword and gave her a warning. She looked back at him with a face that says she couldn't understand at all what he's talking about. I have a lot of things to talk about with Hyuki-tan, but before that, sharp fangs revealed from the warped lips of that man Animaru. Take a bang first. Instantly, at the same time he rushed in, an attack which pressed and tore up the air. The fist warrior skill blow blasted at Hyuki's chest from below. However, just before making contact, as there was already a warning from Joey, and partly due to her reflexes, she was able to backstep and evade it. Before her very eyes, the fist hit the air, the shockwave blew away the roofs of nearby houses. A moment of silence ensued. Subsequently screams rose here and there around the street, the Serbi fled in panic. It's regrettable, really regrettable. Why are you not in N.O.bra mode? Although Hyuki avoided it by a hair's breadth, the wave tore her summer dress on the left breast and exposed her tube bra. Seeing it, Animeru smacked his lips in disappointment without any concern for the surrounding turmoil and clatter. With that kind of Animeru before her, with her surprise and bewilderment and also being exposed, she couldn't decide on her next action. Then next, I shall go for the bra. Animeru made a step forward while smacking his lips. Diaaaaaaaa. Joey slashed his sword towards the back of Animeru's body. What's with this brat? At that time Animeru turned around, with his right hand he completely stopped Joey's attack, and furthermore, only pressuring back with the fist warrior skill knockback Joey's brand new sword broke into pieces. His body was sent flying like a rubber ball from the pressure and slammed into the ground while dragging along an unmanned stall. Joey. This violence had reached its limit. Hyuki deemed the Animeru in front of her as an opponent. She summoned her beloved sword Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice, from her inventory. Perhaps for this man, Animeru, this kind of helpless figure that was almost unarmed, in a summer dress, was the best, so he probably wouldn't let any other equipment be summoned. Joey had given her some time, this chance must not be wasted. Hyuki immediately judged so and moved first. She dashes in, then with a forward bent posture she attacks, scooping upwards aiming at Animeru's body. However, it didn't reach him. It was avoided. As it is, he lowered down and launched a flurry of blows, the fist warrior skill barrage that stopped her pursuit. When they got plenty of distance, this time on the contrary it was Animeru who stepped in. His aim is her left breast that is protected by a single piece of cloth exactly as he said he would. The right fist approached in a straight line together with the shock wave. She dodged towards the left side of her opponent and countered at his opening. The sword stopped. The back of Animeru's left hand guard blocked it. Currently it's a moment of balance. However, if she stays still a kick would soon be coming. Close quarters combat is her opponent's forte. For her it's an overwhelming disadvantage. Concluding that, Hyuki separated herself from him. Coincidentally, Animeru also separated. Suddenly before she knew it, there was an itchy pain on her chest. When she took a glimpse downward, there were 3 slash cuts running on the side of her bra, with blood flowing from the shallow cuts. His fist could be avoided, however this is the result from failing to read the final point of his attacks. Some moves you have there, Hyuki-tan. I thought you were going to pray to the top of your happy mountain, but that last moment evasion of yours was great. You never predict.I.P.aided in PvP in E.H.O, but like this wouldn't you be in the top 20? TL/ed note, okay, so the happy mountain thing is a bit confusing. Basically think about praying with both hands together on your chest. If you're a girl your chest is a happy mountain, don't ask, it's weird. Even hearing that from someone who usually reigned as one of the top 3 won't make me happy at all. At last, with the moment of CLAS.H.I plus NG just now, it is finally proven that the man before her eyes was using a skill which can only be used by EHO players. He also possesses equally powerful equipment that can receive attacks from Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice, as if they were nothing. Animeru's exclusive use equipment, the hand guard Kanshou and leg guard Byakuya. That means, the fact that he isn't just some phantom or doppelganger, there are also monsters that could change into someone you know, has been verified. Hyuki's words made Animeru express a face with a sign of some bitter smile. Top 3 perhaps I should say it's quite the disappointment that I am not first. At that moment, they coincidentally moved together. Hyuki's attack split into 7 stages of thrusts, the Sword Saint skill Nanateng 7 Heaven Falling Blade. Animeru evades it, repels it with both hands, but it still wasn't enough, so he also guarded using the Fist Warrior skill Attack Defense. However, it can't be defended, the attack capability of Rose of Sinner, Jill de Rice, exceeds that skill. Animera did a matrix dodge and performed a somersault. At the same time, Hyuki felt a bad premonition and twisted her body. That instant, a nail went through the air in the place where her jaw was just previously at. Animera's vertical rotation in the air, which ignored the laws of physics, became faster and faster, and from there his limbs projected. The road, the paving, and the stalls were breaking into pieces with just the wave. It's the fist warrior skill Ashirakuryuken, Ashura Fallen Dragon Fist. Dealing with it, Hyuki fought it by rotating horizontally. It's the Sword Saint skill Tenho Heaven Ruler Phoenix Slayer Sword. The tornado that was born became a SLA's.H.I plus NG attack. It had brought in the surrounding debris as well and gulped down Animero, who was in the air. Each of their rotations struggled for supremacy, but with Animera's body posture unstable in the air, for a moment he lost control. Not missing the opportunity, Hyuki's slash approached to bisect Animera's body. However, Animera's eyes perceived that attack. Dia! Together with his scream of spirit, the fist warrior skill blast attack, both of his palms intercepted it. The compressed atmosphere created an explosion. It kicked up the surrounding rubble and dust, narrowing the field of vision. I missed him. Or possibly, he dodged it. The feel of her sword cutting the air made Hyuki regret bitterly in her mind. Even so, she withdrew from that place as soon as possible. Within the cloud of dense dust that blew violently, she quickly turned her sight left and right, searching for the presence of Animero, but she can't. Suddenly, Hyuki remembered a similar occurrence before. Prince Ashel. In the midst of darkness, there were indications of him approaching from all directions. In the spur of the moment he fled above. The chain of related thoughts like dominoes guided her to the optimal answer. Hyuki suddenly looked up. He's there. Using the force of explosion, Animero flew above, soaring even higher. And now that he reached the top of his jump, his eyes matched with Hyuki's. Animero expressed a gruesome smile on his face, which was polluted with soot and his own blood. He approached like a bullet, using the force of gravity falling from the sky. By sacrificing half of his HP, instead he gains an unavoidable attack, Fist Saint skill Kikagukijitama, Kigong of the Shadow Sphere. Animera's roar makes the air shake. This will decide it. Hyuki made her decision and jumped. By consuming all of her MP, she will deal a great amount of damage using the Sword Saint skills Shamite Subazaha, Swan Song of the Chirping Wing Blade. Hey! Screams of meeting with the enemy. Will his attack come first? Or will my attack shave off his remaining HP first? Still, considering each other's remaining HP and special skill characteristics, I am surely in quite the advantageous position. That's what she was telling herself, and Hyuki, who abandoned her defense, let her sword clash with Animera's fist instantly. Animera's fist changed into an open palm. How can it be? Cancellation after invoking a skill is impossible. Don't tell me, including that scream, it was just a bluff? In front of Hyuki, who had a shocked expression and wide eyes, the point of Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice, had been stopped by both of Animera's palms. It's Fist Saint skill S.H.I plus Rahatari, stopping sword with bare hands. This is something that depends on a player's ability, so the success is by no means high. However, in the case that one is a top player, if he knows the released skill and the timing, the probability is surely high to succeed. Animera smiles, ignoring his hand that tore by Hyuki's skill wave. Well, this is the difference between people who are used to PvP and people who aren't. Approximately at the same time, he grasped Hyuki's unsteady body in the air, and released a round kick. Hyuki's small body was blown away like was hit by an explosion. She slid around on the stone pavement of the street, caught by something, jumping over it, and then slowly rolled to a stop. The Rose of Sinner, Jill de Rice, separated from her hands, stabbing into the ground. Hyuki's hat was already gone, flying somewhere else long ago. Her summer dress couldn't serve its function to hide her underwear. She barely held on to her consciousness and unsteadily began to stand up. The pit of her stomach was nailed with Animera's fist warrior skill stun blow. It ended her consciousness instantly. Whoops. Animera supported the fallen delicate body with his single left hand. He looked into the face of the unconscious Hyuki. After that he gazed through her whole body like he was licking it. He inserted his right hand under her underwear, rose, confirming the feel, then licked his own lips. It seems there is no hara.s.sment regulation. In that case, snitching food here would be fine too, but well, a deadlay won't be interesting. After I carry her and return, I shall thoroughly eat this delicious food. A footstep from the debris on the ground sounded behind him as he left the place while humming a person takeaway. TL, takeaway could be mean take away a drunk girl for one night stand BTW, wait a minute. Put Hyuki back. When he looked back, he saw Joey, Brat, who he thought that he'd already killed. Even though Joey had wounds all over his body and was breathing heavily, he confronted Animera with hotly burning fighting spirit in his eyes. His hand grasped Hyuki's beloved sword Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice. Oh kid, you're still alive? I thought you were already dead. That sword's defense power is surprisingly high, huh? Shut up. Stop your gibberish and release Hyuki. Across from the angry Joey, Animera stared back at him with an unamused face. You see, kid. That sword is LV-99 equipment. Even if a brat like you grips it, it's just the same thing as a pole. In the first place, with the skill of your level, what the H.E.L.I can you do anyway? Animera pointed out with his jaw, the surrounding disastrous scene that looked like it had been hit with a bomb. There was not a single moment of hesitation within Joey. So what? Like H.E.L.L I would lose to AB.A.S.T.A.R.D who Hara.S.SES women. Joey shouted as he went toward Animera and attacked him with all his might. Stupid. Animera murmured a single word with eyes like he was seeing trash. He casually added a counter blow with his vacant right fist. Joey's sword and Animera's fist clashed. The thick sound of a fist hitting flesh echoed. In the next moment, Animera's body was knocked down with a violent force. He made a ditch in the ground that had lost its paving and rolled over. WH Watt. CH3 Story 2 End. Vampire Princess Chapter 3 Episode 3 Lion's Roar. This time Hyuki has no lines. My body was dominated by pain. All parts of my body were riddled with lacerations and the wet feeling spread out under my light leather armor. In my vision I saw red which was unlike that of a flame. However, who cares about that? That man beat the smiling girl near him, and brought her away while smiling like a lowlife. Of course I won't allow it. I'll beat him, who looks down on me and talks rubbish, then I'll take back Hyuki. I was only thinking that as I swung my sword downward, but his fist approached in front my eyes ahead of time. Even I don't need to look at the disastrous scene around me to know that if I receive that punch, everything above my neck will burst open like a pomegranate. However, I won't close my eyes. I will pour my power into this one strike even if it costs me my life, till the very end. However, belying Joey's determination, Hyuki's sword in his hand Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice, PAS. Said through empty air. So it's useless. I am sorry Hyuki. Even though Joey resolved himself, through his eyes that he kept open in his determination, in an instant he saw that man's body fly into the sky like an old rag. The dumbfounded Joey stood while keeping his posture of swinging the sword downward. Before anyone noticed, in front of him he saw someone's back stand tall like a wall. Who? He frantically blinked with his blurry eyes, looking at the owner of that back. That man, or perhaps I should say old man, wore dark blue robes, his height was more than 2 m and he had white hair. His severe-looking face was decorated with a white beard, a therianthrope who could only be described as a lion. He looked at Animera with a dangerous glint in his eyes, and handed over Hyuki who he took from Animera who knows when to Joey gently. FLWS. Tiered, Joey dropped Sinner of Rose, Jill de Rice, and received Hyuki with both arms. I understand, the boy who threw the sword and took the girl. You're really a man. In the old man's severe face appeared a favorable smile for the first time. Who are you B.A.S.T.A.R.D? Don't you dare mess with me. While standing up and getting out of the debris, Animera snarled at him with an expression that burned in wrath. Once again the face of that old man changed, and looked at him with a cool expression. So this is the vermin. What? Don't you know who I am, ub.a.s.t.a.r.d? I don't want to know and I don't need to know. In an instant that old man closed the gap and drove his fist toward Animera's face. Humph, that kind slow attack Woga. In the place where Animera talked with composure, as if there was a missing frame from a movie, in an instant the old man's fist exploded. Though his face smashed into the ground and even bouncing back, through his endurance and stamina, he quickly got up and put distance between that old man. Die. He dashed and rained a barrage of punches *H.I+NG through the old man's body, however the old man who should have been in front of him suddenly disappeared. Wah! Losing his target, his fist swung fruitlessly. At that time, the old man unknowingly appeared in his blind spot the flank, and drove a kick toward Animera's pivotal leg, then smashed his unprotected temple with his elbow with all his might. Together with a thunderous roar, half of Animera's body caved in toward the ground. Ga, hag. Though he can somehow stand up, because of a cerebral concussion his feet were unsteady. No way, I should have an overwhelming advantage in numerical value, but, this old man. Without even driving the final blow, that old man said this with uninterested voice. Even from the fight before I can see that you have strong power, yet you're still far from being strong. What did you say? Your fighting style is just *H.I+NG down your opponent through overwhelming power. The reason it always worked till now is perhaps because you fight in conditions where it's convenient for you, or because you only *S. said those who were weaker than you. Because you never experienced a fight against someone stronger or a fight where you risk your life. When you confront someone stronger than you don't know how you should fight. In short, you have no creativity in fighting. Am I right? Even while feeling odd and having his vision drawn by him, Animera spat the blood and saliva in his mouth to the ground. So you say that you're that stronger person? Who are you? Well, I have thrown away my name. However, people call me the Beast King. Hearing that while still carrying Hyuki, from Joey's throat there resounded am.u.f. fled groan. Beast King? Isn't he one of the only 5 SSS rank in the world? Animera raised his eyebrows. Ha! Beast King? That would be me. Wrong, a hoodlum the likes of you pretending to be a king is ridiculous. It seems his physical condition was finally back. Animera readied himself once again. Then I will beat you until you die, and teach you who's the real one. In the suburb of capital city Ara's Prairie, there was a group of people who ran vigorously, creating a cloud of dust. What's the meaning of this? I can't contact the princess. Tenge, who was in his dragon man form, was running with such momentum that he would trample anyone who hindered his path, be it humans, monsters, or even God. He asked the white-haired boy with clear irritation on his face, Akaraga, who ran beside him, to be precise it's Akaraga's true self, Yog-Sothoth clone. Unknown. Almost everyone who stood around to watch were taken down with no resistance. No resistance. No way, though those who keep watch this time were more suited for intelligence than fighting, they're still elites from our country. There's no way they would be taken out by this country's humans with no resistance. Hearing Tenge groaning words, Akaraga fell deep into thought for a while. While doubting himself, he said in addition. Certainly if it's the people from this country then that would be impossible. However, if it's a technique used by a transcendental person, players, then that would be, transcendental person, player. That's however the possibility is not zero. On the contrary, when he talked with Hyuki before about the lost coins and lost era, that topic also come up. I should have investigated it more seriously. No, even though I must face princess's oppositions I should have been there myself. Though he knew that, regretting now won't solve anything, it still came to him as he bit his back teeth. In the first place, rather than running along the ground slowly like this, he really want to quickly soar in the sky. However, since there's a patch between Imperial Crimson and Amisha, other than not being able to fly and land near the main city, if he forcefully breaks it, it's almost like smearing mud in the princess's face. While suppressing his gradually building exhaustion, Tenge put more power toward running with his legs. Either way, with this pace he should reach Ara within 1 minute, after that quick, ladies and gentlemen. We will confirm Princess's safety and secure her. Don't go easy on anyone who stands in our way. Destroy anyone who stands in our way. I don't mind even if you destroy everything in Ara and kill everyone. 100% serious encouragement. The surging group gave a war cry. However, there, standing in the direction of their charge was a man with gaudy armor and a mantle with red lining. A knight-like man could be seen. Since he is facing downwards, his face was out of view. Even while thinking that the figure was nostalgic, "Get out of my way. Move." Tengai yelled, however that man didn't even twitch, let alone move from that place. Move. One man in their group, Manticore with a face of a human and body of a lion, spread his bat-like wings and hopped toward the man. In an instant, the great sword in the hand of that man flashed and cut the Manticore. Gaha! Having his whole body cut, the Manticore fell to the ground. It was still barely breathing, however if left alone it would surely die. In a fluid U.S.tur, a pixie with healing abilities flew to it and healed it. The Manticore is actually a pretty high-level monster, furthermore this individual has experienced reincarnation 3 times, thus it should have the strength equal to the 7 beasts of calamity. To be able to defeat it that easily. Unconsciously all of them stopped running and felt fear in their bodies. On the other side, the man spoke with admiration. "Oh, splendid, to think that it didn't die after receiving that attack." That man swung his greatsword once and stored it by his weight, then raised his face. Seeing that face, cold water poured toward the frenzied group. That said, those who changed their expressions were only high-level members of Imperial Crimson. The one who knew that man the most, Tengai, opened his eyes wide to confirm it. Lubbock-sama. That golden-haired youth that seemed to be in his 20s answered with a slight snort. "Yeah. Though it seems you've gone through self-evolution, the ally identification code seems to be still working." "Hey, who is he?" Oblivious to it, Ogre Princess Sophia, who stared at that youth while catching her breath like Tengai, pulled a Karaga, and asked. With that a Karaga seemed to calm down a bit, and answered with a perplexed expression on his face. "That person is one of the heaven people like the princess, a transcendental person, player, Lubbock-sama. I don't quite understand, but since he's standing in the way won't we need to bring him down?" "We can't." A Karaga answer is resolute as he shakes his head. "That person is Princess Aide. The next person we everyone from Imperial Crimson must obey after the princess, of course we can't point our blade toward him." "Yep, it's like that." Perhaps hearing their conversations, Lubbock shrugged his shoulders and nodded. "Lubbock-sama, right now there's a possibility that Princess is facing a serious situation. Can you step aside?" Toward Tengai's impatient request, Lubbock shook his head apologetically. "I'm sorry. Since I've been in Hyuki's care before I do wish for us to be on the same side. But I've received order to stop you guys here." "Order?" "You're Princess Aide, however the princess hasn't ordered you even once." "Whose order is it?" "You're quite sharp, how should I say it, this world's G.O.D or something like that." Lubbock answered it with a self-mocking expression. "If they can't attack their own people, then it's all on us," thought Sophia and the rest. However a Karaga who noticed it quickly stopped them. "Stop it. Don't throw away your lives uselessly. Our opponent is human. We won't know before we even try, right? The result is obvious. Just like how the princess has another name, Elegant Princess of the Sky, that person also has another name, One-Man Army. He's the only one who was capable of defeating my main body by himself. The strongest man among the heaven people." All of them were dumbfounded after hearing that. Everyone here saw the power of Akaraga's main body in the last war. He defeated that alone? He seems to be fun. At that time, one man walked out from the group slowly and advanced toward Lubbock. "Who are you?" Facing Lubbock, who was full of doubt and knitted his brows, that man Marudo grasped his sword. Princess's kin and one of her retainers, Marudo. "Well, I am a newcomer." Her kin, huh? "Do you think someone who's only a cheap version of Hyuki like you, can win against me who is stronger than Hyuki?" Lubbock drew the sword at his waist as he said that. "Well, I need to at least try to be sure." Marudo's face had not even a shred of eagerness. Marudo perhaps trying to stop him, Marudo threw a glance toward Tenge. Lubbock-sama's sword, it's even stronger than Princess's Sinner of Rose, Gilles de Race. Your sword, Orgra stroke, won't last long. Be careful. Though he can't oppose Lubbock's command, he must confirm Hyaku's safety. Therefore, that's the limit of what his determination can do. Toward Tenge, who showed the color of suffering on his face, Marudo grinned and raised his thumb toward him. Because I wanted to create a refined adult character, I made the Lion Beast King. The fundamental reason only that, oi. Even with the ally identification code, if Hyaku said Lubbock-san, you can kill him just fine, it would be cancelled, but at the present time they can't attack him. Against Tenge in serious mode, I think Lubbock would also be defeated, but the country might be destroyed. Vampire Princess Chapter 3 Episode 4 Mad Flowers Twisted Brilliance Amazing. Against Animera's strong movements akin to a gale, the Beast King responded with soft movements with a combination of defensive body movements and feints. Changing places until it made those who saw them dizzy, exchanging blow with their hands and feet, then they distanced themselves once again. Neither one of them was stopping. Toward those movements that looked like a dance on top of water, Joey involuntarily raised his voice in admiration. Then, perhaps because of hearing that voice or perhaps because the abnormal status from stand blow that Animeru used had worn out, Hyaku, who was unconscious in Joey's protection, let out a little moan, and slowly opened her eyes. Hyaku. Are you awake? Are you hurt somewhere? Do you feel any pain? Perhaps because she wasn't fully conscious, Hyaku gazed at Joey, who called her with a visibly joyful expression, with absent-minded look. However, Suddenly her expression changed, and in the next moment as if she was experiencing a fit. She bent backwards once, and then, as if enduring something, she curled up her body. In that instant, her black hair flowing about, and her now bare back trembled repeatedly. What happened, Hyaku? Is it painful? Despite being fluid teared and calling to Hyaku in worry, Joey's ears still heard Hyaku's small, broken, but urgent, impatient and desperate mutter. Are you, run, can push it down, Joey, get from me, quickly. Because of her hair and because she was facing down, Joey couldn't see how Hyaku's pupils became more and more fiery and reddish, and how two long canines peeked out from her lips. Mustering the last of her willpower, she opened her storage S.P.A.ce, but at the time she successfully took out a potion bottle from her storage, Hyaku's consciousness was dyed with a deep crimson color. When he thought he finally grasped him with his right hand, suddenly the heaven and earth reversed, and even while rotating he was slapped to the ground. Even when sparks were flying about deep in his eyes and his consciousness turned disorderly, he instinctively jumped back while at the same time thunderfoot stepping at the place where his head was. The ground was gouged out as if hit by a hammer and debris scattered around, and mixed among that was an A.S.S.A.S.Cination device in the shape of metal nail, which was thrown and stabbed Animera's defenseless left eye. Gay. The Beast King only gazed with uninterested eyes at Animeru, who pressed his left eye and screamed. Oh. You seem fine. I thought it stabbed through your brain. The Beast King slowly advanced. Even against Animeru's fist warrior skill spirit decapitation, bash, he dealt with it calmly. Animeru, who took out the A.S.S.A.S.Cination device from his left eye with all his power, had blood flowing endlessly from it. Madness appeared in his remaining right eye, and he glared at the Beast King with a gruesome expression. Old man. Die. I will kill you for sure. If you still have a hand to play with, then you should use it right here, right now. The Beast King answered him mockingly. Animera's eye turned round as he looked past the Beast King. In an instant, looking at Animera's eyes that looked so surprised that he forgot the pain and anger he felt. There was a sinister sound of slurping something sticky from his back. The Beast King turned to look behind while keeping his vigilance. Hyaku was standing there. Despite her figure being tattered into nothing, even though she was collapsing right now, she stood on her own feet steadily. Because her long black hair was covering her face, her expression couldn't be seen. However, she held Joey on by his neck with her mouth. Joey was now beyond pale white, as if he was paper. Looking at Joey, whose status was uncertain, had limbs thrown down like a doll, unmoving, not even showing a twitch, the Beast King's expression turned even more severe. Damn. I wasted too much time on this old man. Vampire Princess maddening, no, even Fencer's berserk too. Damn. I can't read through her status. Looking at Hyuki's figure, who was clad in a red-black aura, Animeru, who understood the situation, spat curses. Fencer's Berserk was a fencer skill which activated when your HP hit 10%. Berserk, in exchange for a tremendous increase in status, players lose the ability to differentiate between friend or foe, and become a mad fencer until they die or a certain amount time has passed. Said Vampire Princess maddening. It's a special trait of the Vampire Princess race which activates when they don't consume blood for a certain amount of time or when they face life-threatening conditions. It will erase one's own conscience, release their power limiter, and make them become a lump of self-defense instinct, and attack anyone around them indiscriminately. But I've never heard of the two being activated at the same time. In the first place, among the users with the rare race Vampire Princess, somebody who took Fencer as their job would be perhaps only Hyuki. And as far as Animeru remembered, Hyuki never experienced either maddening or berserk. It's either because her HP never reached that low or because of her paper armor, so she met instant death. Either way, I won't be able to stop it. At that time, the Beast King stopped caring about Animeru and ran toward Hyuki. Stop. Facing the Beast King that tried to stop her, Hyuki casually threw Joey, who was in her mouth, with the power of her jaw and neck. The body of that boy flew like a cannonball. Ka. The Beast King, who caught him with his whole body, was unable to stop its momentum, even with his large build. He was pushed back 1 meter, making a trench in his wake. At the same time, bam! Together with her step which shook the ground, Hyuki flew forward. At the place where the land exploded there appeared an earth pillar. Where is she? Animeru looked around restlessly. Even though he surveyed his surroundings, he couldn't find Hyuki's figure. Whereas at that moment, he felt the violent thirst of blood from above and looked up. There. She dgg all of her fingers into a crumbling house's wall, and stopped there like a spider. As Animeru gasped at that scene, the wall exploded and Hyuki's figure disappeared once again. No, when he noticed she was already right above his head. Her tattered skirt fluttered and her right heel approached him. Animeru parried it right away by crossing both his hands. As expected of a top ranker in Eternal Horizon Online, EHO, despite her unbelievable speed, Animeru was still capable of responding. Hyuki was barefooted. On other side, Animeru was equipped with Fist Warrior level 99 exclusive equipment, a backhand and wrist cover kanshou which has been reinforced 9 times. With those absurd differences, there's no way his defense would be breached. At the same time that he stopped her kick, Animeru will force her back using the Fist Warrior skill knockback. That was what he believed. However, in the next second, at the same time the violent impact stopped, his face was already struck into the ground. What? What the meaning of this? He spit out earth and mud in his mouth together with his broken tooth and fang. I can't imagine it. Using his one eye, Animeru looked at his own 2 hands. The backhand and wrist cover kanshou were deformed not. Then how was he thrown to the ground? When he wanted to get up, he noticed he couldn't move his hand. Then at that time he noticed the reason he was defeated. Both of his hands' muscles were entirely ruptured, moreover peeking out through his skin from the inside were his broken bones. Certainly kanshou successfully defended against Hyuki's attack. However, his own 2 hands themselves failed to stop the impact and his 2 hands' bones, flesh, and joints all were smashed apart. In short, he simply lost in terms of strength. In Animeru's mind, which was filled with shock, his conversation with the man who named himself the Beast King resurfaced. Your fighting style is just +H.I+NG down your opponent through overwhelming power. Because you never experienced a fight against someone stronger or a fight where you risked your life. When you confront someone stronger than you, you don't know how you should fight. In short, you have no creativity in fighting. Yes, that's right. He always fights that way. No, to be precise, he has no other mean to fight. That's the way of life he was forced into. And this was the result. However, there's no other way. since I am. Animera's hair was caught casually, and lifted up like a balloon. In front of him right now were Hyuki's eyes that had a flaming scarlet radiance, and pure white fangs. Though he came up with the plan to eat her, he became the one who was eaten. How ironic. Well, that's fine too, as long as it's not in the hand of that guy. You may as well end this S.H.I+TTY life of mine. While feeling strangely relieved and fulfilled in the depth of his quickly disappearing consciousness, he closed his remaining eye. Ugh. Though the young boy, Joey, who he caught was still barely alive, he had lost too much blood. Though the Beast King tried to apply his ki to help Joey, whose body was so cold it would make you shudder to recover, since Joey's basic life force itself was not enough, it was futile. That would also mean the pill and medical plants he possessed right now also wouldn't do anything. Is there something I can do? While desperately hoping for some sort of miracle, the Beast King looked around him, and there in the place where the young girl stood before he saw a GLA.S.S-like bottle lying around. Perhaps it's medicine? He moved to it while holding Joey, and quickly picked it up, opened the lid of the bottle, and smelled the scent. Odorless. And there's nothing written on the bottle. A light yellow liquid that could be either poison or medicine, but he felt it was similar to a potion, wonder drug, made by an alchemist. Either way, he'll certainly die at this rate. Then, I can only bet on this. Resolving himself, the Beast King gulped the liquid inside the bottle at once and fed it mouth to the unconscious Joey. The effect was dramatically effective. Joey's skin, which was pale until now, turned healthy red, his body temperature, pulse rate, and breath all returned to normal, and even his face, which showed the shadow of death, turned calm as if he was just taking a nap. Slurp. The Beast King, who just let a sigh of relief, suddenly heard that disgusting slurping sound once again. As he raised his head to look at the source in surprise, Animero, who was fighting until a while ago, was completely defeated. Hyuki's fangs were digging into his throat, and right now she was sucking his blood to the very last drop. As if throwing away an empty can of juice, Hyuki threw Animero, whose life has already died out. Then with her unfocused pupils she looked at the Beast King. She's coming? The Beast King quickly put Joey down and readied himself, yet Hyuki's mood suddenly turned calm as if the madness condition she had before was a lie. She stopped motionless at that place for a while, but in the next moment, as if she was a puppet with her strings cut, she lost consciousness and tumbled down where she was standing. It seems he successfully avoided battle. As he judged the situation that way, his shoulders relaxed. At the same time, he could feel the presence of guards who ran towards them in haste. He let out a tired sigh. Holy Kingdom Ian, Holy City Facsimile. At the uppermost floor of the Blue Divine Tower, the man with blue hair and bronze-scaled skin who read the report, took a glance toward a crystal ball among many. Inside those crystal B.A.L.L.S were specks of black and gold which lined up near the wall, which produced a Parian sound as it broke, and he snorted in disdain. So he died. Since the olden days he was a man who was only good at talking. Then he continued to look over the report. With this time the emergency ration was utilized. I used the idea I received about Hyuki berserkification as a basis. Thank you very much. Also, this is the first kissing scene between an old man and a young boy. I wonder how it ended up this way. By the way, since what the Beast King used actually was a cure-all medicine, which recovers both HP and MP greatly, it doesn't have to be transferred mouth to mouth, since it can be used by sprinkling it over a person. Since it's actually medicine which Hyuki planned to use to cure her own maddening. 3 Kings, 3 ways. The next day after that uproar, a heavy atmosphere enshrouded the king's private room in the Ara Royal Palace. Although you might say that, the one who sunk in silence with a hard face was King Collard and Tenge, who stood behind me wearing a tuxedo uniform. An excessively huge lion man of the Beast tribe, the Beast King, who holds the rank of SS exclusive to only 5 adventurers on this continent, is sitting with the 2 of them and calmly drinking his tea while feigning ignorance. Maruto stood alongside the wall examining the situation, and grinned amusingly under his mask. And because Animera's blood was perhaps unappetizing for me, or maybe it was because I drank too much, I was leaning over with my stomach in bad shape. For the time being, it's fortunate that there were no civilian casualties. King Collard, after rubbing his eyelids, his eyes were red, Probably after dealing with after-processing an all-nighter and fixing his GLA.S.SES, he looked around at all of us and summarized the discussion like he was persuading himself. Like H.E.L.L, it was fortunate. Princess was attacked, you know? The heck are you? I raised my right hand to pacify the enraged Tenge. Hold it right there. In the first place, I was the one who refused to have bodyguards while traveling incognito, so the responsibility of walking out defenseless belongs to me. Collared-kun isn't at fault here. First and foremost, even if there were hundreds of guards, it's meaningless against that kind of opponent. No civilian casualties is indeed silver lining amidst this disaster. Well, some of Akaraga's subordinates who were secretly escorting and watching me seemed to be dead, but this relates to my country, so I didn't bring it up here. But, he groaned in dissatisfaction, probably since he and the others failed their duty and didn't arrive in time. Well, the truth is when we reunited, he was in a state where he could have died in a fit of anger due to his sense of responsibility. All of a sudden, he was cutting his own stomach open with his hand to commit suicide. Since my MP would be insufficient even under normal circumstances, and a huge amount of HP was reduced before my eyes, some way or another I healed him while drinking an MP potion that I had on hand, but I almost fell into berserk mode another time. Tenge bit his lips and cast down his face. Good grief, imagine if Master Beast King didn't arrive when he did, it's indeed horrifying. Well, at that time I would be kidnapped, violated, being forced to do whatever he pleases, just like that? With that, all the enraged people of my country will destroy everything in this world without reserve until they find me. Yeah, it's horrifying in two meanings. Well, me being there was just a coincidence. Besides, the one who beat him in the end is Aja-san. The Beast King released the cup from his mouth and shrugged his shoulders. Since I was called Aja-san, Tenge's eyebrows twitched, but he endured it because that person saved my life. That situation is thanks to Mr. Beast King, isn't it? Because you dealt a serious amount of damage to Animeru's HP, it could be settled in such a short amount of time. That berserk status lasts practically no time at all. Since Animeru was in perfect shape without any injuries, it probably would have expired mid-fight. Actually, as a newbie that was a really troublesome thing. Since, as long there were mobs nearby, even if they were PAS.Civ ones, rampaging until my remaining HP finally reached zero became a common occurrence. So, in those moments, in front of a monitor, there was nothing I could do but raise my hands in the air with a feeling of it's over. At any rate, at the same time that Lubbock-sama arrived in front of us, that Animeru appearing in front of Princess it's probably not just by chance. To begin with, you could say that Lubbock-san was stalling you guys, so no matter how I think about it, they had to have joined forces. Or rather, you guys were doing a good job not dying, As I turned toward Marudo with a look of well done, he returned it with light laughter, ha ha ha. He sure is a monster. The best I could do was run around all over the place. Ho! He is an opponent that made you even go that far. The Beast King gave a fleeting look at Marudo's mask. It seems there is some familiarity between S and SS rank adventurers. When I introduced Marudo, he meaningfully snorted PFFFF, Marudo. Anyway, with only the pressure from his sword swings, the ground was cut open, the trees were mowed down, and the rocks broke into pieces. It was like fighting against a calamity in human form. So if wasn't for the armor and weapon that I received from Princess, I would have become two pieces of flesh ripped apart in not even more than a few blows. Nah, a bit longer would have been dangerous. Then he said it's time, so I was saved. Lubbock-san and that strongest sword Getsu, Sever, being able to even fight directly against them is praiseworthy. I thought so from the bottom of my heart. Marudo seems to have been practicing against our round table members. If I were to fight poorly against him, I might actually lose. Well, the opponent was obviously stalling, so he wasn't taking it seriously, so I thought I would give him a swift attack when he showed an opening, but, in other words, a lack of offensive power, Ogre Stroke is soon going to be insufficient for him. Slightly stronger equipment unexpectedly the number of people around me who are stronger than me is increasing more and more. Well, there's no point worrying too much about it. Right now I had to deal with the threat right in front me. I see. Well, surely it was appropriate to deal with an opponent who was not taking it seriously. Were they using only a single sword? Yeah, was he perhaps originally a two-sword user? Towards Marudo, who warped his mouth showing an unpleasant face, I recalled Lubbock-san's fighting style from when this was a game, and then I shook my head. That's not quite right. When he's serious he uses 9 swords at the same time. He's a 9-sword user, you know. Marudo and King Collard fell forward, losing their strength. The Beast King just said a single ho without any change in expression. 9 swords? How the H.E.L.L did he handle it? Dumbfounded Marudo asked a natural question. Well, there is a magical tool that floated the swords in the air and automatically made them attack. It was improved so they could freely move with the user's intentions. He fought using 7 dispersed swords together with 2 swords in his hands. It's kinda like that, I think. It's easy to put it into words, but thinking about those who could do such a thing, as far as I knew there was no one besides Lubbock-san. Originally, the ability to make a sword fly and attack comes from an item, a back piece. However, on top of the monotonous movements, the AI was not flexible. It didn't attack the enemy you wanted it to attack, and attacked extra enemies as well, so its user-friendliness was poor. For that reason, a day later a chest piece item control sphere was added that could control the movements manually due to player demand, but it was ignored. There was no way to control it simultaneously while in battle. It took 2 precious slots, both the chest and back. Due to that it was judged worthless, and many players treated it as a trash item. However, the only one to use it, Lubbock-san, made the impossible possible. At that time he got flamed often, with insults like he was using a bot or an illegal mod. As a guild master I could make a declaration, that he does not use cheats. If he's supposed to be a cheat, that's just his existence. The first and probably the last 9-sword user, many people thought that it was just some sort of trick. The secret though, is parallel thought, a talent that lets you perform multiple tasks together at the same time, although, he was restricted by the number of feet and hands that he had, so he couldn't use the entirety of his extended keyboard simultaneously. Therefore, some swords except his main, the Getsu, sever. The 8 swords are, Hana, Flower, Tori, Bird, Kaze, Wind, Tsuki, Moon, Yume, Dream, Mabaros.H.I+, Phantom, Ibuku, Bubble, and Cage, Shadow, had some lag. Therefore if he's serious, dealing with Lubbock-san is the same as dealing with 9 max level players, so at least for me I absolutely can't win against him. It's better to fight him with a CLA.S.S that has powerful long-distance attacks. Magicians match up well against him. Although his CLA.S.S is G.O.D Dragon Knight, which by nature has high defense, still it's a better matchup. Really unthinkable, Marudo shook his head with a feeling beyond admiration. Well, he is a genuine genius after all. Rather, was it really Lubbock-san himself? To my question that I asked as I turned my head back, Tenge firmly nodded in A.S.Sent. And then, he looked back at me in wonder. There is no mistake. Is there any point that was ambiguous? Rather than ambiguous, it's that Lubbock-san followed someone's commands, which is unbelievable. After all, he is the one-man army, right? I don't know if that someone is a G.O.D or whatever, but the fact that he was being ordered around, I can't understand it at all. Although I said it like that, it's not that Lubbock-san's personality was bad. He's just the type of person who is clear on what he likes and dislikes, and he clearly refuses what he hates. And what he especially hates is supposedly being the type of person who gets ordered around by a superior. If I could have talked directly with him, then the situation might have been a little different, but I was busy dealing with an opponent that resembled Animaru-san. Then resembles means that he isn't that person. That point is a subtle thing. Indeed, with the collection of the dead body and the collected arm and foot guards, it's been judged that they are unmistakably Kansho and Byakuya. However, there is something of a subtle, uncomfortable feeling. Since we were both occupied, I didn't have a chance to personally talk to him, but I don't think he was a person with a screw in his head that was that loose. Well, I don't know for sure since he was behind a monitor, but if the real person inside was actually like that, it might be possible too. Still, I feel that something was different. I wonder how should I put it, maybe that he was lacking in human nature. I have also felt that. It was like talking with a child. Either way, I got an odd impression. The Beast King also agreed with my words. However, I surely can't think of him as anyone other than Animaru-san. Therefore for the time being perhaps we should sum it up with there is potentially someone that very closely resembled him to that extent. Well, even for me when it's about drinking an acquaintance's blood and killing them, as expected I would have uneasy conscience, so I want to keep thinking about it in that manner. In that case, Lubbock-sama as well. That's right. For now, could you accept them being someone similar as common knowledge? Yes. Acknowledged. Tenge gave his bow in affirmation. With that, the Beast King put his teacup that he drank from back onto the table. Since that topic is now dried out, would you hear my story? Those words made the relaxing atmosphere in the room freeze once again. Receiving the surrounding gazes, the Beast King continued his words with a considerably unimportant tone. It's not something that's considerably important. It's just that my motherland, Cress Kingdom is leaving the Crescent Luna Federation. And so, could we be accepted into the Imperial Crimson governed by Aju-san? What? King Collard screamed. Vampire Princess Chapter 3 Episode 6 Beast's Shrine Maiden Midnight. At the wasteland with nothing but blowing wind and the sound of howling beast, a young girl walked with a pure white parasol. She seems to be in the first half of her teens. Her long hair was black as night and tied up as if it was a bundle of silk. Even in the dark, it seemed to be S.H.I plus Ning. She had L.U.S. True's pure white skin without impurities, as if it was made by melting the moonlight. With the addition of her sparkling inlaid garnet-like eyes, she was a girl so beautiful that you might mistake her as work of art. Her dress was also a splendid article which suited her. A sleeveless dress with black as its basis with square-type décolleté and luxurious skirt with a lot of drapes along with a rose corsage. Her headdress, white stocking, and even her black pumps also were highlighted with roses. Even so, the figure that would be showered with attention in high CLA.S.S society, at this time and place can only be said to be bizarre. By some chance if someone saw her, after being released from her charm they might be frightened, thinking it may be ghost or monster and run away at full speed while praying non-stop. It's that kind of impossible spectacle. Well, certainly, only night burglars or monsters will appear in this kind of place at the dead night. I let out a sigh as I looked at the scenery, a rugged rocky area and wasteland. Or rather, as a beastkin base, I thought there would be more flowers and plants, fresh and green with clear rivers or a pond. Princess, this place is too rural, or to be precise its appearance is miserable. From inside my chest area integrated with pet unification, Utsuho lamented. Well, that's true. In the first place, this country kingdom Crass is where the beastkin ran away to after losing against humans. Though ups and downs in life are common occurrences, this beast follower is really disappointing. If they lost their guts just because of this, perhaps it's better that I as a divine beast deal with them personally as a form of Compa.S.Zion. Utsuho muttered something dangerous with a vexed tone. This time the one I brought to their stronghold is the nine-tailed fox, Utsuho, which is equal to G.O.D for them, but perhaps it's the wrong decision. If the successor of the Beast King which I will meet after this is a coward or a big mouth, it's possible that today will become the last day of the Beastkin tribe. Yug, though the Beast King wrote me a letter of introduction, I feel like I'm entering a friendly troop encampment while carrying a bomb with a lit fuse. Then, from under my feet, the shadow which should be thin like the one made from the moonlight, yet in reality was deep black even in this dark night had wriggled. It seems we arrived. Human eyes might not be able to see it, but I can see it clearly with my eyes, a fence and moat which was made on the horizon, and the smoke from cooking that flowed from 10-odd tents. It should be the successor I heard from Beast King, the moving village of the lion tribe. Well then, you never know what will happen. I slightly increased my walking pace. I thought there would be some dispute, but when I gave them the letter of introduction from the Beast King and said my name, they quickly guided me to the biggest tent, and let me sit at the first rank seat of honor with red carpet spread out leading to it. Inside the tent, which was illuminated with a bright red bonfire, in front of me, who actually, though they couldn't be seen because of my skirt, was sitting in bad manner, whereas alias, women sitting posture. Though the name is like that, it's comfortable since it won't make my legs numb. A girl with chestnut-colored short-cut hair. She was a cheerful girl with big eyes who looked like a 13 to 14-year-old, and a nervous old man around 60 years old with white hair, prostrate before me. They have lion ears on their heads. TL notes, if you don't understand, Hyuki is still thinking to preserve her dignity as a man. That's the reason she put the reasoning about a woman's sitting posture. By the way, what they wore is something like an Ainu native dress. It had a colorful embroidery and applique, a short robe with a front overlap like J.A. Payne's clothes, and was pinned with a thin sash. They wore easy-to-move-in trousers and boots from animal leather. Though the girl's basic tone is white and red while the old man is a more inconspicuous dark green, it seems there's not much disparity between men and women. Then, the girl raised her head. Because what appeared in front of me was a doll-like face which usually appeared in shop windows, I quickly corrected my sitting posture as if nothing had happened. Pleased to meet you. My name is Asmina, the milk sister of the next chief of the New Grove tribe, Ravan, and also his de facto wife. Hearing that introduction, I was unconsciously taken aback. The H.E.L.L? Wife. Formal foster brother and sister marriage, she said. Unforgivable. I will behead that Iraj B.A.S.T.A.R.D. At once, my favorable impression towards the Beast King successor Ravan, she said, has been reduced by 200 points before I even met him. Moreover, the love rival is 5 to 6, all right, it's war. Then, the old man raised his head, and after clearing his throat lightly, he glared at Asmina to his side. Asmina-sama, your joke is too much. Though Asmina tried to avoid his gaze, perhaps because of the pressure, she once again faced me and bowed her head. My apologies. My name is Asmina, the sister of the next chief of New Grove tribe Ravan, and also the head shrine maiden. I'm sorry, the wife stuff is an arrangement for the future. She corrected it embarrassed. What's with this girl? Is she really a shrine maiden? Isn't she too free-spirited? My apologies, your majesty. I am Jissus, counselor of New Grove tribe. We feel endless gratitude for your majesty to come from far to visit us. The old man Jissus bowed his head deeply once again. I don't need formal greetings. More than that, I thought it was written in the introduction letter, but, can I meet the successor of the Beast King? Hearing my words, the two of them seemed troubled and exchanged glances. Actually, it's embarrassed to say, but Ravan-sama right now is not in the village. He lives alone in the sacred mountain near here. Then this visit is meaningless? Perhaps because it showed on my face, or it was the shrine maiden's intuition. Without a shred of hesitation, Asmina made a proposal. Then, since I'm about to do my daily duty of sending supper and tomorrow's breakfast to foster brother, I can pass on a message, or if it's urgent, we can come together. Since I'll be bored if I wait, is it fine for me to go together? Yes, with pleasure. Then, I'll make preparations in due haste. Looking at Asmina's back as she stood up excitedly, I unconsciously said this, even so, since you said it's your daily duty, did you go deep into the mountains every day? It seems tough. That's not true. Asmina turned back and showed a carefree smile like a sunflower. My first impression of her is that she's a weird child, but perhaps I needed to amend that. She's a good child who cares about her brother. But, Asmina added, still with smile in her face, since it's common sense to continuously feed animals which are still not quite attached to you. I think I heard something I shouldn't have. I think that was an auditory hallucination. Yup, I didn't hear anything. As I am chatting with Jissus in front of the tent while waiting, I am sorry to keep you waiting. Asmina, with a little basket which seemed like it was plaited with strings like plants in her back, had returned. I thought surely the guard would come together with her, but it appears she goes alone. I feel a bit worried. Is it fine, really fine, for a girl to walk alone at night? It's fine, I'm used to it. Moreover, for the New Grove tribe, this level of darkness doesn't pose any problems. She said that and blinked, In the very dim light her eyes glittered with a golden color. I see, so it's a structure like that of a nocturnal animal that allows their eyes to gather light and amplify it. Then, though it's not as good as mine, a journey at night won't pose a problem. Moreover, I also have a guide from her clothing around her chest area. A pure white stoat-like animal jumped out and sat near Asmina's leg. Oh. It seems it's a sacred beast. Utsuho muttered in slight admiration. This is my friend Huri-chan. This child will tell me if there's something out of the ordinary or something dangerous. Huri-chan, greet Her Majesty. Urged by Asmina, the sacred beast, Huri, after shouting with maximum vigilance hi. Kyuo, it opened its eyes wide and showed its belly, playing dead. What a rude animal. I wonder what's wrong, is it today's performance? The confused Asmina grabbed its tail and let it dangle in the air. Then after it didn't bulge from feigning dead after she poked and tickled it, she stowed Huri, sacred beast, back at her chest. Since its condition seems bad today, please allow it to greet Your Majesty later. Well, I don't mind even if it doesn't greet me. But will you be fine without Huri, sacred beast? It's fine. There's no dangerous monsters in the way, and it's a familiar route for me as a commuting wife. Though she said it with an excellent smiling face, there were some inappropriate words mixed in. Jisus, who was standing at the side, coughed, clearing his throat. Moreover, Asmina looked at me and said it as if it's something obvious. Today, I am going together with everyone. Everyone, huh? It seems she's not a fake shrine maiden. Not only did she notice those who guarded me secretly, she might have also noticed Utsuho, who was unified with me. Actually, since I am being targeted, I'm not thoughtless enough to go walking alone nonchalantly. Other than Utsuho, who became one with me through pet unification, there's also Kokuyu, who hid below my feet with shadow movement. Additionally, standing by high in the sky is Izumo the Azazel, who among the 13 generals has attack power comparable to a Karaga. Furthermore, the flying garden itself was also following in the distant sky. The plan is, if by some chance someone equal to Animero appeared, everyone will gang up on them, but there's no indication of something like that right now. Well, after I met with the said successor, we will decide whether we will cooperate with them or not. Then, let's depart. Following Asmina, who walked ahead in high spirits, as I fully enjoyed the clear night sky, I muttered to myself. Yeah. Today is a fine night. TL notes, about Ravan and Asmina relations. H.I+P, this has become quite a pain. What I know for now is that they're milk sibling and has no blood relation at all. I'm confused what to use. Step-siblings sound like their parents were married, and in-law sound like their brother/sister married. While foster can be used, I don't think any of them were adopted, they're simply milk sibling. If you have better suggestion, let me know. I'll let this term open for now. Kyuuketsu Hime Ch3 Episode 7 TL Mado Editor, Crash, Doom Episode 7 Young Lion King. It was close to the mountain. Although, Close was using the standard of the Beastman tribe's walking ability. It would probably take normal humans around 2 to 3 hours to reach. Within the darkness of the night, Asmina, who could run there in less than an hour, stopped once she was at the foot of mountain and turned her head toward me. It's amazing, Your Majesty. How could you not become breathless from running such a distance without resting? Well, this degree is nothing special for me though, the stink here is really the worst. Oh, by the way, you can call me Hyuki. It's probably the smell of the volcanic gas and sulfur. Since particularly at night time the air is clear, it made the surrounding smell p.r.i.c.k my nose. I answered her while covering my nose and mouth with a handkerchief that I took out. So I will call you Hyuki-sama then. Please call me Asmina without any hesitation. If you like, you can call me Asmin, or even Aspan, no matter how you put it. She is really a high-spirited Maiko-san, isn't she? For me, who is basically a downer type, this type of person is causing me mental fatigue. From here on we are going to be climbing up. It's a gravel road, and since it's dangerous we have to walk, but we're gonna arrive soon so it's okay. The place where she pointed at is nothing but a deluded mountain. I wonder if there is a person living there. Perhaps he's considerably eccentric, this Beast King successor. Also about the smell, well, there is no choice but to get used to it. However, if we bathe in the hot water that gushes out here, our skin will become smooth, so it's handy. FMO, so there's a natural volcano spring gus.h.I plus ng out water. Then, after she said that, I noticed Asmina staring at my face, or rather, she even stared at the exposed side of my chest with a glance fully loaded with secret motives. Is there something? For some reason I hid the side of my chest with both of my hands and took 2 to 3 steps backward. Without anyone under this night's moon, together with only this carnivorous type of girl, she's giving me a hot gaze and licking her lips. Is this unexpectedly a crisis? Well, Hyuki-sama's skin is pretty. Is there some secret behind it? So that is the motive. No, rather than a secret, basically it is probably because I just don't walk about much when the sun is out. Even though I have resistance to sunlight, it is not fitting for my normal condition, and it splendidly dries up my skin. Therefore, I use a parasol on a routine basis. That's difficult. In my tribe's situation, we have to work outside at any cost. Is there something else? Next is using essential oils. As for me, I use a rose one. Ho, if that's the case I could manage it somehow. Will any essential oils do? Asmina's eyes are sparkling, and she's really getting into it. Hasn't this kinda became girls' talk? The purpose for us coming here is, what again? Basically anything is fine, but there are preferences pertaining to the smell, right? However, it has been said that when applying the orange type, the stimulus is strong not long after contacting the Sunday. Shall we depart soon? Is that so? Let's go. Seems Asmina, who asked the question curiously, finally calmed down. She begins to climb the mountain road that stands before me. So, is there anything else besides essential oils? You are going to continue this topic once more? Why is it that we are having this conversation while climbing a mountain? This question mark fully floated above me as we were having endless chit-chat about things, like how to make homemade care products or the way to clean up a honey face mask while we continue our slow climb on this deluded mountain which is said to be sacred. Also, if you're asking a question like why is it that I have such knowledge, then maybe I could say that it's been more than half a year since I've become a woman and there have been various troubles behind the scenes, or how should I put it? Well, I leave it up to your imagination. Now, around 40 minutes after we started our climb. At any rate, about this next tribe chief, he is Ravan Nyisama, called young chief by the villagers, Hyuki-sama. Why does this young chief, Ravan, reside in the deep recesses of the mountains all by himself? Who knows? Around 1 year ago, he abruptly left the village without telling me, this, Milk, little sister of his, and secluded himself here. Even when I asked him for the reason, he firmly refused to answer, so I don't understand. I think villagers go to the sacred mountain for training, but brother is not supposed to have that admirable spirit. She is unexpectedly harsh. I see. But it's quite surprising. I thought since Asmina seems to love young Chief Ravan, you would praise him highly. After I said so, Asmina opened up her story with the entranced eyes of a girl falling in love, which looks like her projecting her delusions about her Milk brother. Of course, I love my brother, I really love him. During the times when we lived together I fed him myself, I crawled into his bed when I woke him up in the morning, and I washed my brother's laundry since it's satisfying to sniff them. Ravan-kun. You can't bear it, so you escaped, huh? However, Asmina's calm face returns and she continued. But, seeing brother's personality with my personal taste and objectively is different. Besides fighting, he is basically a useless person. Well, personally, he is cute, including that uselessness too, so I am caring for him till he goes bald from stress by rating him morning to night. Once again, Asmina's face loosened. Ravan, do your best. Hang on. I privately sent my encouragement to the Beast King candidate who I still haven't met. Also, this girl really loves her, Milk, brother? Then, perhaps having calmed down, Asmina swiftly turned downhearted. Recently, even when I went to visit him like this, I had to deal with his annoyed face. By any chance, does he hate me? I was puzzled with what action I should take. But well, if a girl feels down I have to comfort her, right? I think that's not true. If he really hates you, he wouldn't eat the meals you send every day, and he would have gone somewhere else long ago. In fact, the fact that he stayed in the same place for even a year, in spite of all that he has said, doesn't that mean it's evidence that he longs for your visits? Well, it could be said to be due to the unfrank male instinct. I see. It must surely be that, now that you mention it. Asmina nodded with a relieved face. This girl is awfully resilient. Still, Hyuki-sama knows very well about the male mentality. As expected, from personal experience. You could say so. I had irrefutably tasted the male mentality for a long time. After nodding earnestly loaded with feelings, kaya tihi, Asmina raised a flirtatious voice, whistle, and teased me. What a completely undignified Maiko. Really? Then, her high-spirited mood completely changed. Asmina abruptly stopped and halted me with one hand. Her other hand put her index finger to her mouth. Shhh. From here on is brother's territory. Please be quiet. Well, the one making noise is you. Also, what did she mean by territory? Answering my question, Asmina picked up a nearby stone and threw it toward the gravel path in front, a bit further where there is twig shaped like the letter Y. Cras.h. Plus the mouth of a bear trap closed up. As I thought, there are traps, huh? From here on it's dangerous if we don't proceed carefully. WH, what was happening? Why there are traps? Why does she know? There are a lot of questions I would like to ask, but my voice wouldn't promptly come out. My posture stiffed as I pointed at the bear trap. Although, she probably knows the gist of what I want to say. Asmina gave a nod and summed up the explanation. It's a trap that was prepared by my brother. From here on there are countless traps that have been set so I don't approach him. Because of that, please never touch anything nor walk outside the path I walk along. What is with that? It's what Hyuki said before. It's all about the unfrank male instinct. While saying that, the sacred beast that seems to have revived, left her bosom and walked after Asmina. As I am looking at the backs of their figures, from the depths of my heart I firmly thought, wrong. That's wrong. This is a manifestation of the feeling of frank refusal. Afterwards, we went through traps again and again. Ones like pitfalls, logs that came out between bushes, falling stones, and even wooden spears that would suddenly fly out. We finally reached the small-sized tent where Ravan, the young chief, lived alone. Why had I suffered such hards.h.I+ps? I regretted it from the bottom of my heart while following the main cause of this hards.h.I+p Asmina. However, I was relieved as the goal had finally been spotted. However, for some reason Asmina didn't directly go into the tent, she went along a side road. We aren't going into the tent. At this time, brother isn't here. For some reason, Asmina replied as her breath became rougher. The reason is he bathes at this time. He's supposed to bathe at the hot spring below here. Since there is an ideal point, let's go to the tent after we've fully enjoyed it. I am not interested with something like the male naked body, so it's better if we Not interested. You're saying that brother doesn't have charm. Asmina drew closer while making a skillful action of screaming as she fed her voice. Her pupils completely opened. Iamzori. It's very interesting. Homewrecker. You're planning to steal brother from me. Her pupils changed into a carnivore's with all her strength. Bothersome, a girl in love is bothersome as I think so. While continuing to somehow calm her down, we finally arrived together to a place with a big square stone at 1.5 m in height and 3 m in length, which is said to be an ideal peeping point, 7 to 8 meters from the man-made hot spring. In the end, is it hopeless not to peek? The view from the top there is superb. Hyuki-sama, please go ahead. Asmina pondered for a moment and then conveyed the destination to me. While thinking thoroughly that there was nothing to worry about, I placed my hands on the rock and jumped, then placed my feet on the top. That moment I feel that I stepped onto some kind of thin clothes, and instantly, a rope forming a circle caught around my ankle, perfectly strangling me. Coincidentally, with the tension of a tree that leaned down to the ground and returned back to its original position, I was hung upside down from the tree in a mere moment. In the midst of me flying, I feel that I heard Asmina's murmuring, as I thought, a new trap had been set, but at the time I wasn't thinking about that. I was confused while desperately pinning my skirt. Then, perhaps being noticed due to the sound, a boy of about 15 to 16 years of age, with dark brown skin and light brown hair darker than Asmina's, appeared from within the steam with a figure that only had a towel wound around his back. His height is fairly tall, but he seems to be still growing, so overall the line is thin. Although his body is quite forged, muscularly and slender without any pieces of flab. He made a bothersome face, unsuited for his wild features, and looked toward my direction. "You've come to peep again, huh? Even though you say that we're milk siblings, you need to." His gaze matched with mine. "Who are you?" He pondered a moment and then added, "A female pervert." I shook my head, denying it with all my strength. Kyuuketsu Hime Ch3 Episode 8 TL, Mado the Ed, Crash, Doom Beast King Successor. Please forgive me, it was completely inexcusable. Sitting on ground that is only covered in fur would make my b.u.t.t hurt, so I'm using a convenient wooden box as a chair. Towards me, the young chief of the lion tribe, Ravan, is sitting in a season near the entrance of this narrow tent. He prostrated himself with a face that was worn out for some reason. By the way, what he was wearing, as you could have expected, wasn't a piece of his towel. Well, after what happened, when he had been beaten to h.e.l.l due to Utsuho's and Kokuyu's rage, it slipped off. I turned my face because I didn't want to see it right now. He wore a native dress that resembles his sister's, who sat beside him with a natural face. However, in contrast to Asmina's, which had a white and red colored theme, this one here has a white and blue colored one and another point at the head, which is a blue bandana. As a matter of fact, speaking of differences, I think it is quite different. In addition to his apologies, Asmina also bowed her head at the same time. "Hyuki-sama, I am really sorry that my brother doesn't know common sense." "You don't have the right to say that." The words almost popped out of Ravan's throat, but before the important guest, me, he managed to pin it down at the last moment while trembling. "Well, I know how you feel." I almost made the same retort. "Ugh," Ravan groaned inside his throat. He glared sideways towards Asmina while grinding his teeth, saying, "Speaking of the cause, wasn't the culprit you who invited her to peep? I was seriously about to die just a moment ago, you know. I saw our dead father's beckoning me over to the flower garden on the other side. Rather than about to die, since he was beaten by Utsuho and Kokuyo when they weren't holding back, as expected, Izumo and others in the sky held back. He was 100% dead and floated like drowned corpse in the hot spring, so I used resurrection. Be that as may, as would be expected from the Beast King successor. He didn't die instantly from those two. The fact that he held them back in the nude for nearly 20 seconds is considerably great. I admire that, you know. And then, even though her big brother, Ravan, went through such an unfortunate experience, the culprit who caused this made a lewd face and continued peeping. In some way that's also admirable. In the first place, isn't Ravan Nyisama the cause, since he placed those annoying traps at the mountain road where you won't even know if someone else goes there? Ravan's complaints went into the wall, and Asmina warded them off without hesitation. If you didn't do those perverted things, I wouldn't have to do something like that. Ravan curses with a low voice. Well, these circuit-misdances are family matters, so I won't mind that. Or perhaps I should say that I don't want to get involved. Therefore, from a different angle I tried to throw Ravan a question that bothered me since before I came here. The fundamental question is, why are you living deep in the mountains like this? To protect myself from my insane little sister. He replied with a clear answer. Well, I could understand that. Ravan Nyisama, Hyuki-sama was asking the question seriously. So why don't you quit with your usual jokes and give it a serious answer? Sadly, at Asmina, who chided her brother, and towards her attitude, as expected he had ran out of patience, so Ravan shouted without hesitating in public. It's not a joke. At the time when I was at the village, you arbitrarily disposed of my tableware and replaced it with a married couple's set. You always prepare 2 sets of pillows inside the bed. 24 hours a day, you stand watch with the sacred beast, hurry, and even if I just talk with other women on the roadside, attacks skill come flying. Thanks to me disappearing, you finally earnestly did your daytime training. The elders were also pleased. Isn't it all just cute imudo non-ill will play? There was clearly ill will and secret intentions. The conversation is looping somewhat. What I want to hear is not personal reasons. Regarding this country's current situation, what is the problem regarding your position? Was it self-concealment? Were they averting their eyes from the core issue? I don't really know, but if I didn't ask this one here, the one who is the Beast King's successor, it's out of the question. While recalling the conversation with the Beast King a few days ago, I tried to straight out ask it. Cress Kingdom, which centers the Crescent Luna Federation, is withdrawing from the Federation and will be under the jurisdiction of Imperial Crimson. The smooth bombshare.e.l.l announcement from the Beast King caused King Collard to widely open his eyes, Maruto grin in interest once more, and Tenge to make an expression of so what? The world is princesses, so I lightly stopped him, and as for me I c.o.c.ked my head in puzzlement. Why? Answering about why, if I have to say it frankly, there is no other way for Cress Kingdom to survive other than doing that. It's the only answer. I see. I don't understand. Crescent Luna Federation is the continent's biggest country, right? Why did you talk about Cress Kingdom, which is at the core of it, like it was on the edge? Ajiai-chan, did you grow senile? As a matter of fact, you can call that biggest country a tiger made up of paper. The reality is Cress Kingdom and Cent Luna Country are nothing but a mishmash of a.s.assembled groups. The Beast King lightly shrugged. By the way, Cress is a country which named itself a kingdom, but they don't have anyone as a king. A great number of beastmen tribes comprise the country as a tribe unit. When some important event occurs, major tribe leaders gather to make decisions. King Collard gave a note without a delay. Then, what is the Beast King? It's simply something that pas.ses on just as a decorative t.i.tle. King Collard denied with all his strength the words of the Beast King, who sneered while replying with a bit of a warped mouth. It's outrageous. Beast King is a t.i.tle given to the strongest beastman tribe warrior. Basically, for beastman tribes who obey the strongest person, surely it would be the king. That power is so enormous, it reaches not only the Cress Kingdom, but also beastman tribes that rule in neighboring countries. For example, if Cress Kingdom, that was ruled by the old Beast King, is withdrawing from the Federation, at least 10 neighboring countries will also do the same. The Beast King did not particularly deny those words, and he suddenly became curious about something. With that appearance he asked me a question. In the first place, the Beast King is said to have existed since the Lost Era. It's a t.i.tle that was decided and shows the respect of the legendary beastman that was equal to a god, which reminds me, that fool of a person was also calling himself a Beast King. Was Aji-san acquainted with that person? I wonder if you know something. His tone is light, but with a sharp glint in his eyes. He was watching each of my reactions one by one. Replying to him, I shrugged my shoulders. I wonder? Well, tradition is tradition after all. It's not a problem to show respect to the first generation Beast King, as always, like up until now. For a short, brief moment the Beast King was silent with a feeling like he was probing my words, then he snorted, calming the mood. That's for sure. Well, enough about past tradition. Now about the present Crescent Luna Federation here for a moment. Beast King stopped his words and then dropped his bombshare.e.l.l announcement once again. Before long it will be ruined, defeated by the Gravioal Empire. What's that supposed to mean? King Collard caught his breath. It's as I said. The current Federation leader, or perhaps more accurately, President Baldum. This guy had been stolen from by the Empire, and to reclaim former Federation territory, he was planning a counter-invasion. That can't be. Originally, the S.N.A.T.C. head countries of the Empire belonged to St. Luna's camp after all. And was he planning to make a lifetime bet and place his name in history books? Or was he planning to affirm his honorable position and remain as the most influential person in the Federation in name and reality? Well, ordinary people won't understand it. My goodness. Not hearing Collard scream as anything but a sound effect, I keep thinking about that. Even surprised voices have a lot of patterns. Even so, I affirmed a point in my mind to the Beast King. It seems that defeat is a premise. Is there no chance of winning? None. The Beast King declared it firmly. There are 3 reasons. The first is, in the first place, a counter-invasion using the Empire as bait is obvious. Baldum named his plan Blitzkrieg, but the Empire has already made all sort of preparations. They are ready and waiting. And then, the second is that the Empire and the Holy Kingdom Ian have a secret agreement. Ian by nature is the Beastman's mortal enemy. They would simply devote themselves to giving logistical support, or in the worst case, it would become a war on 2 fronts with these 2 countries. The third is simple. Regarding this war, starting from us, Cress Kingdom, all surrounding countries oppose this war and are refraining from predict.I.P.aiding. If half of the country is opposed, then there is no need for war. When I said it like that, the Beast King strongly nodded in agreement. That's perfectly how it should be. By the way, at the Crescent Luna Federation Parliament, they were practicing a way of human opinion called majority rule. If the majority agrees, then it will reach to the point of letting that plan pass. In the first place, Cress Kingdom and its related countries have small populations and are apathetic towards politics, so the forcefulness of speeches doesn't exist. Again, Collard gave his further follow-up. Incidentally, the Crescent Luna Federation representative leader had been elected by each country's representative for a lifetime in that honorable position, but only this 4th generation wasn't appointed by anyone other than the Cent Lunar-related countries. That's how it is. A federation that is boringly made up by humans' ways will be engrossed to take action in human ways. By the way, how would a decision be made in case there is a differences of opinion in Cress Kingdom? I tried to ask just out of curiosity. In that situation, it's usually decided with a conference between fellow tribe leaders, I think. And in the situation where the discussion can't be settled, they will discuss until it is settled. Even if it takes days or weeks. In that case, it's natural that they're not familiar with the congressional system. Was Ajusan's country different? For our country's purposes, everything is decided only by princess without fail. Tenge replied like he was roaring. After that it would be decided by fist fighting. Ho! That's easy to understand. Do you have any issues with being under the jurisdiction of such a country? For your information, that does mean pledging absolute loyalty to me, you see. Well, reign but not rule is my non-intervention standard though. If possible, I don't want to increase my burden even more. After this is settled, wouldn't I possess 1/5 of this continent? I feel that world conquest is steadily progressing. There is no problem. Beast King nodded, easily ignoring my worries. After he said that, however, he continued. Currently, I'm retiring, so I don't plan to make any public movements anymore. Then who is going to take the group's lead? Here, for the first time, the Beast King showed a carnivorous smile and said, that person is the one who will be the next era's Beast King. Ch 3.8 End.